It's about time I finally put this part out. I'd say that I waited this long so I could use Breath of the Wild music in this, but honestly, I don't even believe that reason myself. I've just been really lazy. There were a few characters that were kind of hard to place, but either way, this video's finally out. Okay, so mid-tier. So yeah, mid-tier characters. For the most part, they will excel at almost all situations. They do have, like, some kind of notable flaws that you can directly see. But overall, that's not going to hinder them too much. Unless, like, there's, like, a few specific circumstances where they may struggle. But overall, these characters are pretty decent all around. So, yeah. If you want the full rules of how this tier list is set up, you should probably watch the bottom tier video. Probably like the first 5 minutes of that, I explain how this is set up. But anyways, let's just get into it. The Hylian Sword is a super basic weapon. It's the first weapon you get in the game, and even though you can get the Master Sword like 3 hours after you start the game, and that just outclasses the Hylian Sword in every way, it can still hold its own weight. Combos 1 and 3 are both really great at racking up a lot of KOs in a short amount of time. And then 2, 4, and 5 are mostly used for 1v1ing, as they do really nice damage, and they are really easy and great to combo into another. In terms of safety, it's not really the safest thing out there, because most of its moves just hit like in front of it. There are a few moves like combos 1 and I guess kind of 5 that hit around it, and also combo 4 actually. But other than that, it's not really going to have a whole lot of safety. And against giant bosses, it's just awful. So just don't use it against giant bosses and just throw in a few specials. The light element does really help it though, just because, I mean, light, you're going to be dealing super effective damage to so many characters, so that actually does make it a bit better. So yeah, the Hylian Sword, it's just a super basic weapon. It doesn't really do much more than you'd expect it to do. It's the beginner thing. Even though it is actually quite complex for a beginner weapon, it just is average, and that's why it's mid-tier. The gauntlets are honestly a pretty average weapon. 1v1 is definitely its strongest point. Combo 3 is gonna combo everything at least for a very long time, and gonna infinite some things like Lizafoses and Dark Nuts, of course, but it's still gonna do a lot of damage in 1v1. But beyond that, it's just average, and that's why it's mid-tier. Against giant bosses without hasty attacks, it can only take down King Dodongo and Argarok in one go. And then with hasty, since this is a hasty tier list, it can take down Manhandla, but it still can't take down Goma or Ganon, if Ganon actually matters, but not really. Because you never really see him. And then against keeps and racking up KOs, it's not the best at all. It's not going to get KOs very fast. And safety, combo 3 is definitely a very safe move, since you can dodge cancel at any time. You just have to be aware since it only hits in front of you. So just remember to look behind you and just make sure nothing's sneaking up on you. But yeah, beyond that, it's like not the absolute safest thing. And it definitely doesn't have enough going for it that I really want to put it in high tier. I mean, just 1v1's great, but that's not the only thing. You need to have like other substance to be able to get up there. If it was like 1v1 and then it was like fantastic in giant bosses and it was a bit safer, then yeah, I'd be fine with putting it high, but Impa's Naginata would be high tier if it just wasn't for it being possibly the worst weapon at racking up KOs. That is just such a painful experience with it. But other than that, the Naginata can do great at pretty much everything else. In 1v1, its attacks do nice damage, and it can combo relatively well. It's decently safe. I mean, you might get hit by a few things, mostly like combo 4. If you like do the entire combo, like the third hit of it, then you're definitely gonna get hit, but that's just don't use that move. Other than that, I mean, like combo 2, that first hit is just so quick, that you really won't get hit if you're just focusing on the one enemy you need to be fighting. And then against giant bosses, it just melts them, mostly with combo 1, so giant bosses aren't even a problem either. It's just in the very rare cases that something is just so horrible at racking up KOs that'll actually make a difference on rating. This is like one of them. This, the giant blade too as well, kind of like these two weapons, just Impa in general is just, you can't get KOs at all. But yeah, the Naginata is great at what it can do. So yeah, mid tier. Lana's Book is a great all-around weapon that can handle most every situation well. The only thing I'd say would be lacking is damage, because sometimes it feels like you can hit something forever and it's almost no damage. But for racking up KOs, you can do combo 4 and then just strong attack to break the walls, and you can get quite a few KOs that way. Of course, that could be better, but it's mid tier, so. In terms of safety, it is a mostly defensive weapon, and you can keep things out with combos 3 and 4 mostly. So you can actually kind of space stuff out, and then if you need to get into something's space and then use like combo 2 or strong attack or something, then you can do that as well, and it is fast at that, so you really won't get hit, so it is safe. 1v1 combos, walls, bouncing walls, things between the walls with like combo 2, and then gets in there, then combo 2 again, and now it's like trap between both walls, and you break them, and then start a combo 3 or 4, and then, yeah, you just bounce in between everything, so it can definitely combo well. And against giant bosses, it does great at that, just combo 4, and then if you want, you can make the walls and then just strong attack to blow them up, but you don't even really need that sometimes. So, yeah, mid tier, I mean, it does what it needs to do, it doesn't really do anything extra. But if you want to play it, go ahead and play it, because it can do well. The Dominion Rod is a fantastic defensive weapon, but sadly defensive weapons aren't that fantastic in this game, just since you don't really defend a single point that much. You really need to just go out and kill stuff. So it doesn't do as great as I'd probably hope it to, but whatever. Main gimmick of the Dominion Rod is summoning statues, which puts a lot of space between you and whatever you're battling. So even though the moves itself are kind of slow and you can't really dodge cancel them, even with hasty, they're not really that safe, since you just have so much buffer range around you when you have a statue active. You are really not going to take that much damage unless you get hit by like some random arrow or something. So yeah, this thing can rack up KOs very fast. 1v1, it isn't that strong, but fishing for weak points is fantastic for it, since I believe it has the strongest weak point smash in the game, especially since like darkness and all those extra buffs that it gets from just 1v1 battling, and also darkness just is super effective against so many characters, so that gets pretty insane as well. The only weak spot in this thing is giant bosses, which it really sucks at against every single giant boss. It may do a bit better in Legends, I don't really know, but this is a Wii U tier list, so yeah, it's bad against giant bosses. But this thing can be pretty crazy. If there's no giant boss, then you are going to go and do work with this thing. You do need to be mindful of your surroundings and just making sure that you're using the right statue at the right time. So like the bird statue mostly for 1v1 and just kind of keeping stuff out, but if you want to go offensive, then use the hammer statue and just hammer down that one guy who you need dead. But yeah, this thing, if you want to make it work, it can definitely work. The Trident's a nice all-around weapon, but it does have a few questionable choices, and it is definitely the weaker of Ganondorf's two weapons. So what does the Trident excel at? Definitely KOs. Combo 4 is going to get you plenty of KOs. You do not need to worry about that at all. And also, safety, this thing is really fast, and I mean, like, with combo 4, you're going to hit behind you. And a few other attacks, like combos 1 and 3, you're kind of going to be moving forward a bit. So you have mobility as well. So safety's not really an issue with this as well. What kind of is an issue is once you start looking into 1v1 and giant bosses, and this is kind of a question of do you want to use hasty or not. Usually it's better to not use hasty on this, because in 1v1 it loses a lot of combos if you do have hasty, which is kind of a huge flaw because honestly this weapon doesn't do a whole lot of damage. So you want to have combos to just make sure that you are able to do consistent damage, which this thing can definitely do, and also you can just fish for weak points if you want to do that instead. But without hasty attacks, you're really not going to do anything any giant boss without a special. But even with hasty, you're not going to really be doing much against giant bosses anyways. So it is kind of just better to not have hasty on this weapon and trade it for something else. But it's still not really enough to put this weapon into high tier, just because either way, if you use hasty or not, you're still going to be lacking in some area. And it's kind of an important area. 1v1 and giant bosses, both those are kind of important. Giant bosses not as much, but it still hurts enough that it's going to just be mid tier. Daruni is kind of a basic character, but he also has a lot of options to make him actually kind of unique. Even though for some reason he's tied with Gandor for the strongest character in the game, but he doesn't really seem like he does much damage, but okay, whatever. So KOs, Combo 4 is going to get you plenty of KOs, you do not need to worry about that. For 1v1, he does have some really nice options. For Combo 1 and 3 can basically just bypass shields or break them, so you're going to be getting into enemies, you're going to be dealing damage, and you're just going to have a great time against anything. Fire isn't really the best element for 1v1 sadly, but it helps in a few cases, like Agatha and Agatha only, so maybe not. Safety, so not the best. I mean, a lot of moves make him really stationary, especially like combo 6 where he just has to stand there while he's like summoning a giant meteor. So yeah, he's probably going to get hit a lot, so just try to be aware of your surroundings before using an attack, especially like combo 6 that is going to make you stationary for a long time. If you're doing just like combo 3 or something, then you don't really need to worry about that. But some of his slower moves you kind of need to watch out for in terms of safety. And then giant bosses, he's taking down Manhandla, and that's about it. He's not the best at giant bosses, so you're going to want to stockpile a few specials for those. But in pretty much every other situation besides giant bosses, he is going to put in some work, and just as long as you are aware of your surroundings, you are definitely going to get A ranks. Well, plenty of A ranks with him. So he is a pretty decent choice for mid tier. I find it kind of funny how Agatha still gets so much hate. I mean, that kind of feels like such a 2014 thing to do. Because she's really not as bad as people make her out to be, and I don't know, I thought that was kind of well known by now. It's like, okay, she throws around bugs, so how well can she perform? But she can perform really well. Okay, but I guess 2.5 years doesn't change opinions. Okay. Anyways, Agatha, 1v1 she can deal with very well. I mean, combo 2 is an infinite, even though it doesn't really do much damage. But combos 4 and 5 and strong attack all lead into the butterfly, and while you're on the butterfly, you have complete invincibility and a ton of AoE, so you are super extremely safe, and you're not gonna take any damage. And even after the attack ends, you really shouldn't be taking any damage, just because strong attack, the butterfly explodes, and then everything around you just knocked back, so you can just lead up into something else. Clearing crowds, combos 4 and 5 both do great at that, and combo 3 can as well, but not so much on that, I think. Also just slamming down with the butterfly on combo 1 again, that still also does great for racking up KOs. So yeah, those are probably your two best aspects. Safety, yeah, the butterfly is invincible, but at the same time, it's like a lot of her attacks mostly make her really stationary. I mean, combo 2, she stands there. Combo 3, she stands there and jumps, so that's really annoying. Combo 4s and 5, she jumps up in the air and then falls back down, but hitboxes really don't exist other than a few special cases vertically, so even if you're in the middle of the air but someone swipes at like your feet, even though you're way up in the air, you're still gonna get hit, which is silly. So that's kind of one of her iffy areas, and then she's also not that great against giant bosses. But even then, the other two areas and kind of safety, like that one's kind of a meh. Kind of depends if you have hasty or not. But she's still a great character and can perform very well. So that's why I'd honestly put her in like the middle of mid tier. Like if I was actually ordering characters, then whoever is in the middle of mid tier, that would be Agatha, paired with the Hylian sword, because they're just the middle weapons, I feel. I don't know. I have never seen any character in any game get carried by a single move so hard. And I think if you've seen my Midnight guide, you know what I'm talking about. And that's Combo 3. So, what does Combo 3 do? It can rack up KOs, it can deal with giant bosses, it can do 1v1, it does a lot of damage, it's kind of safe. Safety is probably Midna's weakest point. But yeah, Combo 3 will basically do everything you kind of want it to do, but that's about it. So it just basically does bare minimum. You're gonna get KOs, you're gonna be able to handle 1v1, and it's even better because she's dark, and Dark Element just has all kinds of goodies going for it. And giant bosses, that's really nice too, so you can get through pretty much any mission, get A rank fine, maybe not damage, that might be a bit of a hassle, but it's just so baseline that it's really hard for her to go up any higher, because it's just really basic, and it's just that one move really doing anything, while her other moves are just severely lacking in damage, or they're completely unsafe, or they just take like years to actually pull off, even with hasty attacks. So yeah, I mean, if they make Hyrule 2, I hope they kind of rework her moveset, because it's not really fun to play right now either. And she can still definitely work, and she doesn't really require that much knowledge. She's a really easy character to play, but she's only gonna take you so far. So yeah, mid tier, I'd say. Medley is such a fun character, but you really need to understand her flying mechanic and just how she works in general to actually make her work at all. So, against giant bosses, since this is kind of like a questionable point, she does well against King Dodongo, Argrok, and for some reason Ganondorf, but she has light element, so that makes sense. But yeah, Manhandla and Goma, you're gonna kind of struggle with. For racking up KOs, this is also kind of one of her weaker areas. Probably, honestly, I'd say her weakest area, since giant bosses she can make up for with a special. But, I mean, her special doesn't really cover much range, so you're really not going to get that many KOs. This is probably her weakest point. You can kind of spam, like, combo 3, 4, 5, 6, like, kind of all those can rack up KOs, but that's kind of a struggle. 1v1, this is where she gets crazy. Well, she's a light element, she's going to be doing a lot of bonus damage against quite a few characters, but even then, if you have a full flight bar ready, you can just keep things in the air forever, just do a combo 2, then do one weak hit to bring them up, and then do a dodge attack, then use another weak hit to bring them up, then use another dodge attack, then use another weak hit, and then it's just kind of an endless cycle. And then once the meter runs out, you use a strong attack, they fall down, then you can just fill up another light flight meter instantly, then just do it again. If you want to, you can throw in a combo 6, since that's one of the strongest attacks in the game, and just go from there and have fun. That's really it. Safety. This is definitely where Midna gets help a lot from hasty attacks, because safety, yeah, she really struggles with that. With hasty, she's a lot faster, and she's also just feels less stiff, because that's also another thing. It's like kind of hard to turn around with her without hasty. With hasty, it's a bit easier. But yeah, attacks like combo 6 are still extremely vulnerable, so watch out for that. But pretty much the rest of her attacks are generally safe. So Medley, yeah, if you know what you're doing, you're gonna have a fun time, you're gonna do well, and just go out and be a pretty burb flying through the sky. The boots are often just an overlooked weapon because, I mean, it's a Legends DLC weapon. So in Legends, you're basically barely ever going to use it. And then in the Wii U version, you're probably never going to use it. But even then, it is still a really good weapon. At KOs, yes, KOs, it is not that great at. But Combo 3 and Combo 6 still can get the KOs. So even though, like, you shouldn't run into a rack up your KOs mission and expect to get 4,000 KOs in like 5 minutes, because that's just definitely not going to happen. But in a standard mission where you need to get 1,200 KOs in 15 minutes, that's very easily doable, and really, that should happen. I don't know. So, that's not even like that huge of a problem with it. Giant bosses, Combo 4 just shreds them, so, okay, that's it. Moving on. Safety, it's not really like the safest thing ever, because it just hits in front of it and it has such a short range, but whenever something is getting hit by you, the attacks on this weapon have quite a bit of stun, so whatever you're attacking, you should be, for the most part, safe from while you're attacking. It's just basically everything around you that you might get hit by something. And then 1v1, I mean, like, combos 2 and 4 are just great at just keeping stuff up in the air. And then also you could just throw in a combo 6 for just huge damage overall. So yeah, the boots, they're really basic. I mean, you just kick stuff, and they're not really flashy, and you probably won't use them that much, and you don't really have to use them at all. But even then, they are still a really good weapon, and I don't know, I guess people just kind of forget about it, because, I mean, I don't know, they're just kind of unremarkable, but it's still good. So that's the end of mid-tier, and like I said in one of my earlier videos, I think it was the Skyward Sword 6-heart run video thing, there were 3 characters that I was kind of considering putting here, but also high tier, but I ended up just putting them in their own individual tier. That will be the next part. It'll be part 3.5, because it's like a weird in the middle part. So yeah, that will take considerably less time, because I don't need to like think about, oh wait, do I actually want to change my mind and put them up tier or down tier? Be like, no, these are 3 characters, they are set in stone, and they're done, so I don't have to like panic about, oh, I was second guessing myself, I should move them up, no. And also it's only 3 characters, so it doesn't really take that much time. So that should go up, not like 2 months from now. And then after that is high tier, and high tier, that won't take really long to make either, because that's kind of just talking positively about good characters, because that's not really that hard. And also, like I said in the beginning, I think, like, I haven't played Tingle, and I'm not gonna play him ever, but if I were to place him, I would have placed him here, but, I don't know, whatever. It's kind of just because I know he's definitely not top tier, I definitely know he's not bottom tier, so, like, mid tier is, like, the safest, so he could go a bit up or a bit down, but I think he's also just, like, generally, like, mid tier everywhere, so, yeah, I don't know, whatever, I'm still not playing him. So, yeah, that's the end of this video. That took way too long to come out. Okay, bye!